What's going on, everybody? It's your buddy, it's your pal, Spaz Phoenix, the YWC Reality Check. And check your watches, check your clocks, check your calendars. It is the end of the month, and it is in fact exactly ridiculous o'clock in the morning, which can mean only one thing. It is time for the November installation of Ask the Phoenix. Now, I want to clarify something before I get into this month's edition of Ask the Phoenix. After I record this video, you probably won't hear from me again in the wrestling context. What I mean by that is this is the last wrestling video I will be doing for 2014. I won't be doing Raw reviews or anything like that in December. I'm giving myself a bit of a break. It's not that I'm not having fun. It's not that I don't want to interact with you guys. It's literally my weekends are jam-packed leading right up until Christmas. I've got a lot of family shit that I'm doing, and realistically, it is the holiday season, and I just generally want to take a break. Now, there are exceptions to that. For those of you that have been following Walking Stuff and Dead Things, the Walking Dead series that me and my buddy Bird are doing, you know there's one more episode until the mid-season finale. That is this Sunday. We will be doing a review. We may or may not be pulling one or two extra people in to join us for that episode. I'm not sure just yet, so I can't make any promises. The only other exception that there might be is if I can get on the same page as OKFabe, we may be able to crank you guys out a Spaz and OKFabe tackle preview video for TLC. Now, what that means for this series is you guys have 2 months to give me questions. You guys have 2 months to build questions to the January Q&A as to the questions you leave down in the box here below, keeping in mind that any pre-TLC questions will be outdated by the time I do my next Q&A, because there won't be one in December. TLC will come and go before those can be answered, unfortunately. If that bums you guys out or whatever, I'm sorry. It's got nothing to do with you guys. I've gotten wicked support on this channel. I think I'm up to 515 now. The common voices that I hear in every single Q&A, most of whom I'm going to talk about tonight, are fantastic, and I never want to do a video like this without acknowledging and just generally saying how thankful I am for you guys and the support that you give this channel. And it's way too early, but happy holidays, Merry Christmas, Happy Hanukkah, Happy New Year. I'll have a birthday somewhere in between if anybody wants to throw me wishes on the actual day. I was born on December 22nd, almost December 23rd, but, you know, I got in there a bit early. Usually I do get birthday wishes and whatnot from YouTube, which is funny because nowhere on YouTube is that birthday listed, but it is December 22nd. If one of you guys wants to pop on and say hello to me, or any of you that have me on Facebook or whatever, that'd be great. It happens. I never would have expected that. It's one thing to get feedback on your videos, compliments on the different series, etc. It's another thing to have somebody reach out above and beyond, or to have a fan base reach out above and beyond that, wish you happy birthday, congratulations on being an uncle, congratulations on the new job. I've gotten new jobs since I started doing this, and that's I don't want to get too sappy with you guys because I do want to get to the Q&A, but that is kind of humbling. In all honesty, I know I come up here, I sound like a brash, arrogant, sarcastic asshole. Some of you guys, and the way you treat me on here for nothing more than a social media interaction, some of you guys really go above and beyond and make me feel good about what I'm doing, and you guys are the reasons that I'm here. 2015 will be the 5th year of this channel. It is what it is, but anyways, to sum up this ramble that's already gone on for 4 minutes, this will be my last wrestling video unless I end up doing the video with Connor. This will be my last Ask the Phoenix for this year. Questions put down in the box below will be for January 25th's Ask the Phoenix. I'm pretty sure it's going to be huge. We'll be getting into the Rumble. We'll be getting into the road to WrestleMania, which brings me to the next point. Starting in January, people like James, people like, James is the only name I can think of off the top of my head because he's one of the most vocal fans I have. We will, in fact, see in 2015 the return of Ask the Phoenix. Or not Ask the Phoenix, this is Ask the Phoenix. We will see the return of Road Signs, my Road to WrestleMania series that runs from January to April. Everything up to and including WrestleMania. So I look forward to that. That has always gotten a fantastic reaction, as has this Q&A. So, with all that in mind and no further ado, let us get into November's Ask the Phoenix. Starting off with my buddy James, who says, The Big Show feuding with Eric Rowan. How do you think Eric will benefit in the feud? We've seen him kind of face off before in tag team matches, and they have good chemistry. How would you book it, and would you still give Mark Henry versus Big Show at WrestleMania? Mark Henry versus Big Show one more time at WrestleMania, even if they were both heels? How would you book it? Eric Rowan coming out on Raw to challenge the Big Show was really cool. It brings us a lot of booking opportunities. I would like to see them go down the road of, I've always been a good person, I've always been somebody to stand up for bullies. I lost my way when I joined up with Bray Wyatt, and as close as I seemed with Luke Harper, I was only that way because Bray brainwashed me to be that way. I would like to see him really run down Bray Wyatt. Eventually, I would love to see a Rowan versus Wyatt feud, but I don't think he's been built strong enough for that to happen at this point. What's he going to get from the Big Show? Let's be real. I don't think Big Show is anybody's favorite person anymore, but Big Show is, he's almost part of a checklist. If you become a main eventer, there's a lot of things you do. You get into all these different main event styles of matches, you get into all these different gimmick matches, and one of the hurdles you go over at some point or other is you're going to have a rivalry with the Big Show. Nobody that's a main stage name in the WWE right now, with possible exceptions of, say, somebody like a Bray Wyatt, and even he's had some interaction with the Big Show. It's a hill to climb. It's not, Big Show's not the guy that's going to give you your WrestleMania moment, but he's that guy. You say, oh, so Bray Wyatt's going to go into a feud with Randy Orton? Well, we all know what he did to the Big Show last month. Imagine what he can do to Randy Orton. He's a blank slate. He's a proving ground for other people. He's a stepping stone, and if you step on the shoulders of a giant, you can see far, as the cliche goes. Would you do Show versus Henry at Mania one more time, and how would you book it if they were both heels? Show versus Henry has happened enough times now, and it breaks the mold of big man matches for me enough that I wouldn't mind seeing it one more time, and I wouldn't mind seeing it at WrestleMania. If they're still both heels, very simply, I would have the next, whoever the next power to be is taking over after the Authority. I would have it that there's somebody not particularly capable of caring for themselves or protecting themselves, so they need somebody to protect them, and I would have that Authority figure go to these two guys and say, look, I need a bodyguard. I need you guys to prove to me which one of you should get the job. And, you know, there would, obviously, with being the Authority figure, he could give them all kinds of title shots and breaks and assistance and all that sort of thing, so you would have Mark Henry and the Big Show fighting to be that guy that gets all those perks. Is it the most ingenious storyline in the world? No. Is it the most original? No, but it's simple, and sometimes, especially for guys like Mark Henry and the Big Show, who it's hard to make people give a shit about at the best of times, it's better to keep the storyline simple and to keep a storyline that we already are kind of familiar with. At the Survivor, I like this. At the Survivor Series, we got a teaser of Ryback versus Rusev. How do you see the feud going moving forward? And would you book this U.S. Championship match at WrestleMania 31? Especially because this is the first time we've seen the U.S. title mean anything since the Jamaican Jobber touched it. And then in brackets he wrote, Deluxe Man can suck it. And if you don't believe me, go back to the comments of this video, because that's what it says. I'm not talking shit here. I think these guys need to run into each other sparingly. Like, they ran into each other on opposite sides of Survivor Series teams. If there was a multi-man ladder match at TLC, I wouldn't mind if they were both in it. I wouldn't mind if they had a stare down at the Royal Rumble. You know, they encounter each other. I don't know whether they'd be in the Elimination Chamber, but they encounter each other sort of in passing there. They keep brushing shoulders. Much similar to the way that Ryback and Mark Henry started their feud, just bumping into each other in the hallways, and neither guy wants to move. Both guy wants to, you know, be the alpha male, piss and mark their territory type of thing, until it blows off at WrestleMania. And if you let it build, and if you let the anticipation build so long, yeah, the match itself will carry over and it will feel important. You got the USA propaganda that goes into any Rusev match at this point. And yeah, I think all the eyes being on the match, as much as they would be, would give prestige to the United States Championship, which it didn't have, you are absolutely right, when people like Kofi Kingston held it. Do you think Dave Bautista will return to the WWE? I think he deserves a one-on-one rematch because he still has his rematch clause, and Daniel Bryan was booked more shitty than Cena, and Batista versus Lesnar could be Mania or SummerSlam. How would you book it? There wouldn't be any booking necessary for this one. In my book, you know, Brock Lesnar is the outside the company powerhouse, like he's the traitor that went to UFC, yada yada yada. Batista, even though most people don't like him, he's sort of like the WWE homegrown powerhouse. Brock Lesnar goes through, destroys everybody, yada yada yada. This would work better for SummerSlam because you don't have the Royal Rumble element going into it. I would have Paul Heyman and Brock Lesnar talking about how they've destroyed everybody in their path, and there wouldn't be any words spoken between Brock Lesnar and Batista. If anybody remembers Kurt Angle's debut in TNA, he came down, he interrupted, he had a promo when he was introducing himself, and Samoa Joe came down and just headbutted him, and that was sort of, for TNA, that was sort of like the headbutt scene around the world. I would have the two of them just stare down hard. Heyman, you'd see Heyman getting frantic in the background, trying to pull Brock away. Brock kind of swats him away, and Heyman kind of runs. And it doesn't even matter who, one of them takes a shot at the other one, and the crowd explodes, and there you go, you're on your way to Mania or SummerSlam. I think it would be fantastic. I think it's something that everybody wants to see that's long overdue. Not nearly to the same epic level, but I think you get the same kind of anticipation for a match like this as you do for Undertaker and Sting. People have been talking about it for a long time. Your top 10 matches of the year nominees, and you have to include one Cena match. I have no problem including a Cena match, because the Cena match I'm going to include is his match with Bray Wyatt at WrestleMania. Also, Daniel Bryan versus Bray Wyatt at the Royal Rumble, Daniel Bryan versus Triple H at WrestleMania, Shield versus Wyatt's, Shield versus Wyatt's, Shield versus Evolution, Shield versus Evolution, Dean Ambrose versus Seth Rollins, Dean Ambrose versus Bray Wyatt just a couple weeks ago. Anything that Cesaro and Dolph Ziggler did together in the ring. And although they don't usually get the credit that they deserve, I would like to see any of the matches that Cesaro and Jack Swagger did this year, because they also work really well together. Now, you go down into NXT, you've got Sami Zayn versus Adrian Neville, you've got the Lucha Dragons versus the Ascension, you've got Bayley versus Charlotte, you've got Charlotte versus Natty, you've got Finn Balor and really hoping I pronounce this properly, Hideo Itami, the guy that used to be Kenta, versus Justin Gabriel and Tyson Kidd, a team that deserves to be on the main roster, I just have to say. That's more than 10, but those are the matches that stick out this year. Do you think we could ever see John Cena versus Bray Wyatt again? I love the feud, despite Deluxe Man's opinion, and the rivalry reminded me of Batman versus Joker and Frank Miller's Dark Knight Returns. Do you think we should see it again, or is this one of those feuds that needs to be booked very carefully if we have more matches, if you get what I mean? I think I get what you mean. I don't think this is a feud you can tap on all the time. Cena versus CM Punk was a match they could always come back to because the crowd had an investment in it. Punk versus Bryan was something that they could always go back to because you knew those guys were going to throw on fantastic matches. Any combination of the Shield and Wyatts you could do constantly. The problem is, with the way some people think that Bray Wyatt was treated in that rivalry with John Cena, there's a level of don't give a shit, because a lot of people think that John Cena totally buried Bray Wyatt, and if they almost want to protect Bray Wyatt from John Cena and have them not fight again. You would have to book it in such a way that you gave the fans a legitimate reason to think that Bray Wyatt would even stand a chance. You'd almost have to book Bray Wyatt like Brock Lesnar, because there's nobody on the roster that's booked to look like they could beat John Cena on any given night. That would be the main hurdle you would see to getting a match like that off the ground. I think they worked incredibly well together. I think they're so opposite. Bray Wyatt, the counterculture, cult leader, dirty, demonic, storytelling type character that he is, versus John Cena, the pure Snow White sliced bread babyface. to the nth degree. They are so opposite that it created, I should say, especially at WrestleMania, a great dynamic, and it's one that I would love to see them go back to again. But I think it would face hurdles along the way with the crowd. That's the end of that. Create a new faction in the WWE similar to Evolution. The best example. Which four would you pick and why? Here are mine: Cena, Orton, Ryback, and Ziggler. It's not a bad team. If it was me, I would have to have sort of a legend leading the group. So my group would be headed by Shawn Michaels. I would say CM Punk if he was still in the company, but he's not. And Michaels technically has a Legends contract, so he's technically still here. And his team would be Ambrose, Wyatt, and most people won't like this, but I'm going to say Roman Reigns. Just saying. I love random questions like that where it's, hey, here, throw a group together, tell me what you think will work, and I think that would work. I think a unhinged group like that, led by Shawn Michaels, could be fantastic. Cena has done a lot to help the roster in the past years. He's slowing as he is slowing down his career, and I would hope you would do a Cenapocalypse 3 because I think a lot has changed regarding John Cena's character since 2012. Let's not even discuss Cena versus John Laryngitis. That was a cancer, although the promo segments from Cena were bloody funny. Here's the thing, and James, you've been asking me a long time when I'm going to do Cenapocalypse 3. The problem is, I could do a video on John Cena and how things have changed and how I think he's doing these days. It wouldn't be a Cenapocalypse, though, because everything that I brought to the head in Cenapocalypse has slowly been retracting itself. So I have less to bitch about, not more. So Cenapocalypse, in what it was initially, if you remember, the title of that video was Cenapocalypse, the top 50 reasons why John Cena is killing professional wrestling. It's less true now, so I have less reasons now at the tail end of 2014 than I did back then. So, no, I don't think you're going to see Cenapocalypse 3. If you want me to do a video on John Cena from a different perspective, from a progress perspective, from a story arc and a character arc perspective, I could possibly pop out something like that. I'd have to put a lot of thought in it, and I'd have to go back and watch a lot of stuff. But Cenapocalypse 3, I don't think it's necessary. At this point, I'll go as far as to say I don't think it's called for. So the answer's no. If Edge didn't have his neck issues, would you book this dream match for WrestleMania? Edge versus Cena versus Orton versus Batista in a fatal four-way for the WWE title. They all have history and they all have good chemistry. They do all have history and chemistry. I hate to say this, but I'd cut your match in half. I would straight up Edge and Orton at WrestleMania for the title. Take my fucking money. If WWE ever did the shocking and the unthinkable, having John Cena lose an I Quit match, who should the opponent be? I think it would make John Cena's character more human. Think Superman versus Doomsday as an example. How would you book the feud in the match, and what pay-per-view would it be, and what venue? I wouldn't do it at WrestleMania. I would have this happen, and then I would have somebody else come along and pick the bones of what was left of John Cena, and he would go off to fight them at WrestleMania. This would be a good dark horse match to put on something like an Elimination Chamber, where it's not the chamber match, it is the main event, yada yada yada. If you want to have John Cena lose an I Quit match, I would say babyface versus babyface John Cena versus Dean Ambrose. But that's just me, that's just off the top of my head. Alright, that's it for James, who always writes me questions like they're novels. T-Rex 1028, what are your thoughts on the Roman Reigns character? I hear rumors that they're reinventing his character before he comes back next month, so I'm going to reserve judgment on that till he comes back, because I could judge what he was doing before he left, which I thought was great, which I thought, whatever the Shield embodied, that idea stayed with Roman Reigns, which is why, you know, his gear stayed the same, or it got slightly modernized, why he got his own modernized version of the Shield's music. I think that militant soldier war machine type of attitude that the Shield had stayed with Roman Reigns, and I think a lot of people thought that that meant that he was sort of staying in one place while everybody else was moving away. I think the opposite. I think it solidified his character, and it means that his character has been more established than the other two. And we see how well the other two are doing. That's not a slight on Rollins or Ambrose, not by a long shot. But his character was really good before he left. I thought it wasn't nearly getting the credit because WWE, or sorry, the YWC were looking for somebody to bitch about. I'll have to see, though, because if they're changing his character, you know, any day now a Johnny Curtis can become a Fandango, right? Do you think Seth Rollins is the modern-day Jeff Hardy, or is he the original Seth Rollins? Now, here's a funny one, because most people think when they say, oh, that's the next so-and-so. Right now, people are saying Enzo and Cass in NXT are the next Road Dogg and Billy Gunn, because they do the speaking bit, they do the comedy bit, and whatever. When I say it, I mean it a little differently. If I say it, like I have on videos before, that I think Seth Rollins is the next Jeff Hardy, I mean that in a very personal sense, for my own personal fandom, the same type of spot that Jeff Hardy holds in my fandom is the same parts of my wrestling fandom that Seth Rollins tweaks. Now, am I saying that he's going to come in and take Jeff Hardy's place? No, because everybody has their own place. It's the same as when people say Bray Wyatt's going to take The Undertaker's place. No, Bray Wyatt, after The Undertaker's long gone, is going to come in and carve out his own place. Seth Rollins is going to do the same thing. He just contributes the same things as far as a ring style and as far as agility and ability and match work. He reminds me a lot of Jeff Hardy, but he's not taking Jeff Hardy's place, not by a long shot. There are a lot of things about Seth Rollins that are better than Jeff Hardy. I mean, Jeff Hardy's starting to slow down now. He's beat up as hell. Not that he hasn't earned each one of those bumps and bruises, but it's sort of Seth Rollins' time. Jeff Hardy has moved on to TNA and he'll do other things. He's tagging back up with his brother again, which is fantastic. Do I mean that he's going to be the next Jeff Hardy? Is he's going to fill a Jeff Hardy role? No. As far as my fandom, he may be taking over that spot when Jeff leaves. There are people out there, I don't know. There's people out there that think we haven't had a powerhouse tag team since the Road Warriors, and people have said that either the Wyatt family, or Luke Harper and Eric Rowan, or more recently the Ascension, could take that spot. Now, does that mean that those guys are trying to be the Legion of Doom? Obviously not. But there is that big, powerful, ominous, oh fuck, what's this meant to be mentality that the Road Warriors did bring, that the Ascension could also bring in 2014, 2015, 2016. The Wyatts did it for a little bit. They had a maniacal leader in Bray Wyatt to help them do it. The comparisons are there, but as far as one superstar replacing another one new superstar's career replacing an old superstar's legacy, I don't quite look at it that way. How's that? What do you think of having a part-time champion? I don't say this because I'm any particular fan of Lesnar's, even though I am. I think having a part-time champion has given ridiculous focus to the mid-card division. I think if we had a full-time champion, if Cena was champion right now, or if it was Orton, or if it was anybody like that, you wouldn't have had Rollins versus Ambrose Hell in the Cell main event. You wouldn't have had Bray Wyatt and Dean Ambrose in their match at Survivor Series be featured nearly as prominently as it was. And it's a good thing. I think it's giving other divisions chances to make their titles look great. Now, are they making the Divas division into a joke once again? Absolutely. But the tag titles are sort of in flux. They have good days and bad days. The IC title is in a really interesting spot now, being the pawn between Luke Harper and Dolph Ziggler, which is going to give us some great matches going forward. Rusev is sort of the most interesting guy on the lower mid-card, and he's got the US title, and there's a built-in story there. So other stories, other titles are sort of having a chance at prominence while the main title is gone. Now, do I agree Brock Lesnar is sitting at home probably collecting a bigger paycheck than most of the guys on the roster? No. But at the same time, do we want him to be there because he's a slacker, but then when he is there, we'll bitch that other people aren't getting enough exposure. So, again, it's not that I want to be crass, but it's one of those situations where wrestling fans are never happy. Who do you want to see take the belt off Lesnar? People think I'm crazy. I know a lot of people disagree, but I wouldn't mind it being Roman Reigns. I know people are saying he's going to be pushed like John Cena, but at least he's not John Cena. As I say, people are perfectly happy with the overbooking of somebody like a Daniel Bryan. They can learn to love the overbooking of a Roman Reigns if you see it that way. What are some of the qualities you enjoy about the superstars you don't like? Okay, let's go through some of the people that you guys know I don't like. John Cena can have a good match if he's got somebody to work with in the ring. Does ridiculous PR for the company, does a shit ton of charity. If it wasn't for the fact that I personally don't find him entertaining, like I've said in the past little while, I would genuinely love to sit down and have a drink with John Cena. I would want to ask John Cena if he understands why we don't like him, or why the people that don't like him. And I don't even mean that in an insulting way. I really want to get into his head, because it is bizarre. His character, as corny as it is, and as much as we don't like it, his character should, in all rights, be everybody's hero. You know, the picture of good, never give up, you know, helping out the downtrodden, however you want to say it. Everything about his character should be loved, but it's not, and that's a very, very wrestling thing. So I would want to get into his head and say, do you get why we don't like you? And the flip side of that is, I've seen him in interviews, and he seems like a pretty chill guy for as much as you can judge from an interview. I honestly get the impression that if you did sit down and you did ask him that, he would try to give you an answer. Now, that's totally speculation. That is total speculation. I'm not a crazy person. I'm not saying that, you know, I'm going to turn the camera this way, you're going to see me talking to John Cena. That's not the case. All of his out-of-the-ring attributes maybe balance out the fact that I don't find him entertaining on my screen. Sheamus is somebody I don't like. If he's in the ring with somebody he can brawl with, like a Wade Barrett, like a Cesaro, like a Mark Henry, if you like a brawl, Sheamus can put on a good brawl. He has some good technical matches with the likes of Daniel Bryan and CM Punk that I will give him credit for. Rey Mysterio was good in his place in WCW. And that's all I can say. I loved the Cruiserweight division in WCW. Rey Mysterio was a big staple of that. He came to WWE and tried to be everything but that, and that's where he falls down, and that's why I don't like him. The Big Show, as I talked about earlier in the video, he serves his purpose as a bump in the road for somebody that's moving on to a better story, and I think at this point he does that very well. When he's a good guy, when he's a babyface, he's a good, fun character. He is what the Great Khali should be, I guess. I can't even believe that's the comparison that I'm making, but yeah, there's some people that I don't like, and the other people that I don't like, I could mention divas, but like, it's not that there's divas that I don't like, it's just divas that I just don't give a shit about. I used to hate the Bellas, and they've made a lot of turnarounds. I mean, the booking just this past week has really irked me, because I think there's a lot of politics behind it, but in general, Nikki and Brie Bella were the real ones I was complaining about in the Divas division, and they've come leaps and bounds since they debuted, and the only thing they had going from them was that they were identical, which they're not anymore. Nikki Bella and those tig old biddies. That's it, really. After that, it's just guys that I find goofy. Like, there's guys like Adam Rose and Zack Ryder, and a lot of people don't like Fandango, that have gimmicks that are killing them, but as far as in-ring talents, they're great. There's guys floating around there that don't have much of a gimmick at all, and therefore don't get TV time, but if you showed them, they'd be fine, whatever. Why aren't you and Alex friends? You all must have been playing Mario Party 5 together. I don't get the reference because I'm not really a gamer. I don't respect somebody that completely cuts other people off and considers them basically cancer if they have a different opinion. The problems between me and Alex started when I got vocal about Daniel Bryan and Team Hell No. They got worse and stupider when I spoke out about the stupid booking that Daniel Bryan got at WrestleMania, and I just pointed out some truth from my point of view, and apparently that's not okay. Why do I watch Preston's videos if you hate what he has to say? Here's some honesty, guys, and I've talked about this before. You guys like a lot of the things that I do on here. You guys like the Ask the Phoenix series. You guys like road signs that I have coming up in a month or so. I guess you guys like my pay-per-view reviews, my Raw reviews, whatever. I'm not the most creative person in the world, and I'm not really the most eloquent person in the world either. Big surprise, I know. When there's a point that I want to get across, and when there's something that's bothering me, if there's a storyline that's bothering me, if there's a particular attitude that seems to be going through the YWC that I don't get or understand or outright disagree with, what I will do, and it's I know it's a bizarre thing for the creative process, and by all means, you guys need to know that this isn't specific to Preston and Alex. This is across the board. I go to videos of people that aren't necessarily full of shit, but that will preach extensively an opinion that I don't agree with, because if I can picture having a conversation or a debate with that person, there's my starting point for making my videos. It's a creative building block, so to speak. I'm sure there's plenty of people that disagree with me, and if you watch me, if you disagree with me and yet still watch my videos, if you want to use any of my videos, any of my content whatsoever to build a video on a topic that you disagree with me for, that's great. That's how you start a conversation. You know, I say at the end of each video, start a conversation or keep my conversations going. That doesn't necessarily mean you have to agree with me, and that's what I do. Not to quote Mark Henry, but the easiest way that I can get my thoughts together for a video, for any particular topic, any particular rant that I want to have, is find somebody that has an opposite opinion of me and picture how I would argue with them. That's just me. People might say that that's cheating or causing drama or that's cheap or whatever. It's just, I do this for fun. I'm not getting paid for it. It's part of it's one of the tools in my creative arsenal, let's just say. Now that being said, if the comments that I'm responding to or using are to the ridiculous level that what most of Preston's are, I will call them out on them. I will call it bullshit. Could John Cena actually be the greatest champion of all time? Anybody could be the greatest champion of all time if they're booked that way. Do you think Kane is a complete joke nowadays, or is it just me? Yeah. Much like Big Show, Kane is not a story fixture. Kane is a bump in the road in a story. Kane is the quintessential, okay, Triple H has Seth Rollins that he wants to protect, so here, you have to deal with Kane for now. That's all T-Rex. The Zohan, oh my good lord, sent me 41 questions. No, hold on. No, he didn't. You numbered your stuff really funny because your questions go from 25 to 36. So we have 31 questions instead of 41. That's not so bad. Thoughts on the CM Punk biography, Best in the World? I have it. I think it's great. I think it's very blunt and to the point, which it should be. That being said, current news, go on to YouTube, search up the Colt Cabana Art of Wrestling podcast. He had CM Punk on there. It is a hell of a listen. It's his side of the story of why he left the WWE. Many things, including a growth that he had on his back that WWE tried to pretend wasn't there. Several injuries that he received from Ryback, because Ryback's special. And the fact that the Shield was actually CM Punk's idea, if you listen to his side of the coin. Obviously, it's slanted. Obviously, he's out there basically with an open microphone on his friend's podcast. So take it with whatever grain of salt you will. Sorry, guys, my chair's doing a funny thing like usual. But it is a good listen. And the Best in the World DVD, I have it. I think it's great. Any former WWE superstars who should return in 2015? James is probably going to squeal at this one, but I think Goldberg could have another run if he got over himself and stopped thinking that he was worth more than he was. Christian needs to go out in a big way, so if he's done, which is what I've heard, let him have one more match. Not a main event, but like let him have one more WrestleMania moment and send him on his way nicely. Morrison would be cool to see back. It would be cool to see Rey Mysterio honor his contract and have one more WrestleMania match, maybe against Sin Cara or Mystico or not Mystico, Kalisto. What is something different that WWE should do for Cena Lesnar 4, Last Man Standing? It has to be, because they're two Mack trucks running into each other. You can talk all you want about Brock Lesnar's technical prowess, and yes, technically he does have prowess, but these two, it's a brawl. It needs to be a brawl. It needs to be that quintessential two Mack trucks hitting, and there's nothing better for that than Last Man Standing. Which rematches are better than the originals? Number one that comes to mind is Extreme Rules Chicago Street Fight, CM Punk versus Chris Jericho. What is the shittiest Survivor Series team of all time? The Spirit Squad. Now, you didn't ask me this, but I have to say the best Survivor Series the best Survivor Series team of all time was Co-Captains DX, when it was DX, the Hardy Boys, and CM Punk. I mean, you could not build a better team of baby faces. You could not build a better team of fan favorites than that. Shawn Michaels starting the match, knocking out Mike Knox, and turning around to the rest of his team and be like, was he in the match? I think he was in the match. Was he in the match? So we're doing good. CM Punk had just joined the company at that point, and all four of the other teammates on his team high-fiving him when the whole crowd chants CM Punk is a fantastic... I can't even remember who was on the other team. I know it was co-captained by Rated RKO, and I know Mike Knox was on there just because he got knocked off Mark Henry style. I want to say that MVP was on that team. I'm not sure. But, yeah, Co-Captains DX, whatever year that was. Fantastic Survivor Series match. Who's the greatest sole survivor in history? I gotta say it's a tie between Orton and Ziggler, depending on the day. Best finisher in WWE today. Well, Kevin Steen is about to debut in TNA very soon, and if what I've seen is correct, he's got that wicked package pile driver that he does. Adrian Neville's got the Red Arrow, which is nice. Of course, my boy The Miz has the Skull Crushing finale, which is good. I want to say Ziggler, but not necessarily because his moves are particularly effective, but the way he whiplashes himself, his own body and his opponent's body with whatever move he does. Dolph Ziggler's delivery is fantastic. I still think the F5 looks like a beast move. Cesaro, the neutralizer, not only because it looks pretty effective, but the people we've seen him do it on is impressive, just in a feats of strength kind of way. Which NXT superstars would you like to see make a main event splash in 2015? It's hard to say, because all the guys that I like in NXT are small, and we know what WWE does with small guys for the most part. This is, again, in that fantasy realm where I say we need a cruiserweight division, but obviously Adrian Neville, Sami Zayn. I really want to see a resurgence of Gabriel and Kidd on the main roster, and not just because Tyson Kidd is Natty's husband. The Ascension is going to change the tag team division when they come up. Corey Graves hasn't been in NXT in a while. I've heard that he's injured, / he's got some family shit going on. If he's gone, that sucks. If he's not gone, bring him up to the main roster. I will tell you right now, I got WWE 2K15, and right now my tag team champions are CM Punk and Corey Graves. And they won them off Dean Ambrose and Bray Wyatt. Moving on. Thoughts on Brock Lesnar potentially returning to UFC? As long as he doesn't carry the WWE title into UFC, then I'm all for it. Once he's served his purpose, and passes the belt on to somebody else, that's great. What wrestlers should fear for their releases in 2015? All three members of the New Day, if they hadn't become the New Day. Khali's already gone. Santino already retired. Kane. I want to say Kane, because if Kane wasn't Kane, he'd be gone already. Kane is one of those guys that they get high on, and then they sort of leave him for a while, and then they get high on. He's kind of got this up and down sort of wave of a career that is really interesting to watch, but at the same time, it's one of those, he's a staple, and Kane exists as a reminder that The Undertaker was a thing. So I don't think Kane's ever going anywhere, but they've already released a lot of people. I don't remember. Which WWE legend tarnished their legacy the most? I gotta go with the easy answers here. Somebody like Jake, somebody like Scott Hall, or you could go the other way, which is a lot more touchy and makes me seem like a lot less sensitive of a person. You could think of somebody like Guerrero, somebody like Benoit, obviously. I don't know. I don't want to linger on this too much just because it's like sad stories. Best traditional Survivor Series match. I'm gonna go back to what I said a minute ago. That match with DX, Hardys, and CM Punk. Just because, as a whole, as a team, as an entity, it's just like, yeah, look at this team. They're going to win. And normally being that predictable would make a match suck, but it's such a fun match. It really is. Oh, I was also asked what was the shittiest Survivor Series pay-per-view of all time, and that's got to be the Survivor Series Deadly Game. Not only because just about every match on that show sucked, but they scrapped what Survivor Series actually is to have a one-night tournament, and the one-night tournament ended in a bullshit fashion when they recreated the Montreal Screwjob from, I believe, the year before. So the entire pay-per-view was pointless. The entire pay-per-view was pointless. They could have just come out at the beginning of the show, handed Brock the belt, and been done with it. But no, they wasted all of our time and all of our money. Oh, yes. Worst booking mistake of CM Punk's career, making him drop the belt to The Rock. Oh, yes. Or having him ever defend that title against Ryback. Thoughts on CM Punk writing comics for Marvel? I'm not a huge comic guy, but I know that CM Punk knows his stuff. You guys know I'm a big fan of The Walking Dead. I've seen CM Punk on Talking Dead, I believe, 3 times now. I think it's funny because the first time they called him CM Punk, the second time they called him Phil Brooks, and then after he was fired, the third time they had him on just recently, they called him CM Punk again, which is, and all 3 times they had his Twitter underneath, so it was really kind of pointless. Who had the best Survivor Series debut? The Rock, The Undertaker, Scott Steiner, The Sting, or The Shield? Kurt Angle. Kurt Angle was pretty friggin' amazing. The Shield, just for their total impact and the fact that they still have an impact now, great. Undertaker and The Rock for a historical factor now, but you wouldn't have looked at The Rock back then and been like, wow, that's a great debut. I think he debuted against... I don't remember. It's somebody that is not worth remembering for sure. The guy that I don't know what the character's name was. I can't remember. That's crap. I know he went on to be Rikishi eventually, but he was the masked, like, almost looked like an extra from Aladdin. I just don't know, guys. I'm sorry. But looking at that match on the night, you wouldn't have thought anything of it. Maybe, if you're totally naive, looking at the debut of The Undertaker, you wouldn't have thought much of it. Looking back at it from a historical perspective, you'd have to laugh at yourself for saying something like that. Scott Steiner, give me the fucking mic, was the best thing about his debut. And Sting, yeah, he came in and DDT'd one of the bosses. As cool a moment as it was, I wouldn't really call it a debut. It's kind of more of like an announcement of his arrival. If you understand what I mean by that distinction, I hope you do. Best Survivor Series match debut, the casket match, the ambulance match, or the Elimination Chamber. Ooh. I'd have to say the Elimination Chamber because it became a part of the yearly schedule. Casket match is pretty much specific to Kane or The Undertaker, so once they're gone, it'll be gone too. Ambulance match is just lame all the way around. What is one thing WWE always messes up? Legitimately, even if it does actually happen, making us give a shit about a John Cena match and thinking that one of our guys has a chance to win. Because we don't care in advance, so that way when we feel the loss, we don't even really feel the loss. And if our guy does win, we already don't care. So it's like, oh, he won. I guess we should have given a shit all along. But we don't, and that's bad. Does the WWE still need Vince McMahon on screen, backstage? Here's a controversial answer for you on that one. I think behind the scenes, from a business perspective, hand it over to Triple H. But if you want to keep the fictional Mr. McMahon character alive, I wouldn't have a problem with that. Because as an on-screen character, Vince is great. Vince is absolutely great. The best angle one of the best angles WWE has ever done was a wrestler and an office person, and that's Austin versus McMahon, obviously. I will be watching this week after Raw the live Stone Cold Steve Austin podcast with Vince McMahon. I think that's going to be really, really interesting. But it's just like the impact of that character, the fact that a non-wrestler, as I say, was one of the best angles in wrestling history, is almost mind-boggling. It's just another one of those only in wrestling does that happen situations. Which WWE gimmick was dropped too quickly? I would say Mordecai, Kevin Thorne, Gangrel, Damian Sandow, Yoshitatsu. A lot of them. Some people would argue Ken Anderson, Maven. Maven eliminated The Undertaker from the Royal Rumble. Does anybody remember that? If you remember that, stick it down in the box below. You're watching as long as me. Which match was meant to be epic but failed miserably? John Cena versus The Rock for the WWE Championship. Was all kinds of shit. And the sad thing is WWE almost told you that it was going to be shit because they tried too hard to make it big. If you just announced John Cena and The Rock were going to have one more match, the marquee value of that sells itself. John Cena is the biggest thing going right now, whether we like it or not. The Rock in his own day, maybe next to Stone Cold Steve Austin, was the biggest thing going on in his day. You could just announce that match, never mention it again, and sell WrestleMania. But WWE was very desperate in the way that they advertised Rock versus Cena 2. And I think that told us, as if we didn't already know, that the match was going to suck. And, I mean, you know John Cena's going to walk out with the belt, and it's just bad. Worst pay-per-view ending. Worst one. I guess, in real life, the Montreal Screwjob. If I want to be like a downer, a little bit of a bummer, that was kind of fucked up. Anything that involved the Raw general manager. I'm not going back very far, guys. It's tired and it's tired in here. But yeah, any Royal Rumble where the Royal Rumble wasn't the main event kind of seems anticlimactic, doesn't it? Which feud should have a Hell in the Cell match that doesn't? Oh, wait a minute, hold on. Why does WWE write storylines that they can't finish? Example, why did Brett DiBiase run in at SummerSlam? Who won NXT Redemption? Why did Nexus help Kane? I don't even remember Nexus helping Kane. Who did... Oh. I don't think they did it to help Kane. I think they did it just for the impact of saying, look at us, we're a brand new group and we took out The Undertaker. I don't think it had anything to do with helping Kane. I think it had to do with them making an impact. NXT Redemption was really a who gives a fuck. This is right before they revamped it into the awesome NXT that we have today. Why didn't they end it? I don't think it mattered. I don't think anybody cared. Brett DiBiase, I can't say anything about. But they do write things a lot. Like they had the... what's an example I can think of? The when Kane knocked up Lita, you got a pregnancy angle there. You can't really go anywhere with that, so they had to have it that she got knocked off the ring and had a miscarriage. I've mentioned it a couple times in this video, but the anonymous Raw general manager, they booked themselves into such a corner that nobody would have made sense, so they purposely gave us a shitty ending. I think they're great at starting ideas with no final thing in mind, no long-term planning. If you watch that, if you listen to that CM Punk podcast with Colt Cabana, he goes on quite a ramble about how they have no long-term planning. What are you doing now? Okay, what are you doing tomorrow? Okay, what are you doing the next day? If you go over here, what are you doing next? If you don't go over here, who are you fighting next that's going to revive you? They don't have it sometimes. What's the best wrestling weapon? Just because it's so iconic at this point, you got to go with the steel chair. People that have individual weapons, like Al Snow had Head, and, Saturn had Moppy, and Chavo had Pepe, and Mick Foley has Socko, Triple H has his sledgehammer, Mick Foley has his barbed wire bat. But if you want to talk about just generically, I'm in a wrestling match, I need to grab a weapon, there's nothing more iconic than the steel chair. There really isn't. Now we go back to which feud should have had a Hell in the Cell match that didn't. If we see Batista versus Lesnar, which I talked about earlier, I'd love to see that in Hell in the Cell. Best moment from the invasion angle. Oh. Best moment from the invasion angle has to be friggin' Paul Heyman's work shoot on Vince McMahon and how Vince McMahon changed wrestling. and how he buried all the little guys, and he starts talking all about how Vince Sr. went around to all the little promoters and shook their hands and told them that he would never compete, and he ends the promo. He starts talking about, you know, it's not just me that hates your guts. Your own family hates your guts, and who can blame them? You took one of my guys, Taz, and made him into a pudgy little announcer, and then they had to go back into the storyline and lead into the pay-per-view where Taz comes in and chokes out Paul Heyman, which in itself is a great moment because Paul Heyman is big and he's got a couple jackets on and whatever, and Taz can't even get the choke on properly. But the promo that he cuts on Vince is absolutely fucking fantastic. Biggest mistake WWE made with 2014, they realized that they had something good in Daniel Bryan, and they thought they had to put their own momentum behind it. And they overbooked him to fuck at WrestleMania. Which match do you want to see take place at WrestleMania 31, and why? I can't tell you why, and I know it's not popular, but I really do want to see Brock Lesnar versus Roman Reigns. I want to see Brock Lesnar drop the belt to somebody young, somebody new, somebody that's not in that already established realm. I want somebody new to win the Royal Rumble. And I don't necessarily think that Roman Reigns deserves it 100%, but I want him to have a platform to prove me wrong. I don't dislike the guy, but I do have some doubts, because he's still... You know, he's a little green. He's not perfect in the ring by any stretch of the imagination or on the microphone. A lot of other people hate him, and I just don't get it. But I would love him to have that platform on that big stage to prove us all wrong, because I think he could. Thoughts on Ryback? He's fun. I'm glad they brought him back as a babyface. Infusing him in the bringing him back just enough in time to be a deciding factor in the Survivor Series match against the Authority was a brilliant move. Thoughts on the Illuminati? Do you believe they exist, and what do they control? I have no thoughts whatsoever. Worst stipulation ever would probably be the hair versus hair match that they had recently on the last NXT pay-per-view with Enzo and Cass versus Sylvester Lafort and Louis Marquis, or whatever the hell his name is, where the build-up had them balding a dog, and it was lame. Oh yes, NXT does lame things too, I know, guys. Okay, we're getting there. What are your thoughts on TNA Impact moving to Destination America? It means I can't watch it. And it means even the torrent that I got for this week is not working, so I can't watch TNA till future notice. Is there a television deal for TNA in Canada? Not that I've been able to find. I really haven't. And there's no... and Destination America doesn't have a sister station here in Canada like most other stations do, which is really unfortunate. What do you think about the Wyatt family splitting up and Eric Rowan turning face? I spoke about this already briefly. I think we're going to get something somewhere along the way where I've always wanted to be a nice person. I've always wanted to do the right thing, and Bray brainwashed me and forced me to team up with a psychopath like Luke just so that we could get tag team titles. I do want to see these guys go at it. I don't think it necessarily has to be for the Intercontinental Championship. I just think it has to be one huge guy going at another one, and that it'll just work. I just answered that. Based on the turnout for Survivor Series, are you excited for TLC? I'm excited for TLC now that we already know what the main event is. I'm interested, and if you told me this a year ago, I wouldn't have believed you. I'm interested to see what they do with John Cena. Because we already know what the main event is. And Brock Lesnar's not around. So... I don't know. I mean, I want to see where they go with the Tag Team Championships. I think we're going to get Miz and Mizdow versus the Golden Stardust. Is what it looks like. We'll probably get a rematch with Ziggler and Harper. We could see the beginnings of this feud between Big Show and Rowan. Somebody's going to step up against Rusev and probably get flattened. That's all speculation on my part, entirely. I have no idea. In what ways do you think the Invasion storyline could have been better, keeping the Ric Flair, Vince McMahon, and NWO storylines intact? Just anybody that was more relevant in TNA at the time, because you didn't really have anybody. You didn't have Goldberg, you didn't have Sting, you had, like, the Z-listers, and they had to bring in help from ECW just to have a decent team. It was just... On the whole, it was done really half-ass. I'm looking at my thing there, and it's telling me I'm going to run out of battery, and if that happens, I'm going to be pissed. Have you purchased WWE 2K15? If so, how do you think it compares to the other THQ games, including 2K14? I love because I have PS3, not PS4, so it's a little different than PS4. I don't know what you guys have. I love the Who's Got NXT, where you had to unlock Graves and Big E and Bo Dallas and Sami Zayn and Adrian Neville, which I've done. The rivalries career mode, the Cena versus Punk storyline I'm in the middle of right now. The Triple H versus Shawn Michaels I'm also in the middle of right now. I'm trying to do both of them kind of at the same time. It's not a bad game overall. My favorite part of any wrestling game is the create a character mode, which I haven't even touched on this game yet, if I'm completely honest. But it's good so far. I've worn out the stick on my controller, and I only have one, so I have to either get that fixed or pick myself up another one. So I haven't been playing for about a week or so, but it's like I say, guys, I'm not a huge gamer. The only games I have are wrestling games, and that's because I'm a wrestling fan, not because I'm a gamer. So I'm not the best to critique something like that, but it suits my purposes. I'm having fun with it. It is what it is. Of all the rivalry build-ups and payoffs the WWE has put out starting in 2002, which one do you think had the best driving momentum? That's... I really want to say Punk versus Cena. I know I fall back on that one a lot, but it's just we as fans have so much more invested into that than anything else. What do you think is the worst song being played on the radio today? Probably Anaconda, only because I have to hear it at work all the time. Best song being played on the radio today, Heaven Knows by the Pretty Reckless. Look it up, it's good. What's your favorite piece of classical music? I don't listen to a lot of classical music, but what I will say is when you find hard metal covers of classical music, I think they're phenomenal. I think, totally off track, but there is a track on YouTube called, if anybody's a fan of the Jurassic Park movies, Jurassic Park heavy metal theme. I think it's by like guitarist Heavy7 or some username like that. It's phenomenal. I've found a lot of things in that realm that have taken classical music, like, you know, Beethoven and Mozart and shit like that, and turned it into metal versions of that music. And it's, I don't use this word a lot, but it's gorgeous. It's gorgeous music. I can't think of anything in particular off the top of my head, though. I would just say any classical piece of music that you're a fan of that you really enjoy, type it into YouTube with the words metal cover or done in metal or metal remake, anything like that. Because when you add electricity to classical music, it sounds just phenomenal. What teams would you create if PWITOF had its own Survivor Series? These are all from Sal, by the way. Sal, it would be you, me, Mark, and Abel versus Ashton, John, and whatever other suckers they got on their team. You're a PWITOF admin for a week. What would you do to improve or destroy it? Well, I wouldn't want to destroy it, and you guys have more activity going on your group than I do on mine. So I'm really not in a place to critique it. I have a lot of fun in your guys' group, and I thank you for not only letting me participate in the various contests that you guys have and whatever, but you guys also have a very big hand in sharing this channel around, so I wouldn't change a thing. Are you under a YouTube partnership? If not, would you consider it, or have you considered it? I was a YouTube partner, very briefly, and the bulk of it is they send you to a page where you can go and you can track how much money you've made, and it's like every time somebody clicks on a link you get like half a cent or some bullshit, and each time you reach $100 they'll send you a check, some ridiculous framework like that. By the time I reached about $21, they mysteriously messaged me with accusations that I was clicking on my own links, which I found really convenient on their part. I will not claim conspiracy, but I found it very convenient. No, I don't want to do this for money. There's people out there that say, oh, if you're there's an expression in wrestling, if you're not here to be the champion, get out. And there's a lot of people on YouTube that say if you're not here with the dream of making money on YouTube, then you're lying. You have to follow a lot more stricter guidelines when you're a partner. You have to talk about copyright and all that bullshit. I wouldn't be able to use the music that I use. I use a lot of Kid Rock, I use a lot of Hailstorm, I use a lot of Pretty Reckless, I use a lot of Disturbed in my entrances for these videos. A lot of the graphics and thumbnails and stuff that I use are just pictures from WWE.com. It's like, hey, this is what the video is about. Random picture of that guy. I wouldn't be able to do any of that. It would be a lot harder for me to audio and visual create the content that I want to create for you guys, because I'm not a visual technical wizard, and I'm definitely not an audio technical wizard, so I take what I can and I make it work. It would hinder me in that regard, and I just go back to straight videos. If you ever want to see how much I've come along as far as a content producer here on YouTube, go back to my first video. I always say this. I always say if you're a fan of this channel, you have to go at least once and watch my very first video. It's a review of 2010 SummerSlam, and it's me, very monotone. I'm staring up into the corner over there because that's what my webcam led me to do at the time. The sound is horrible. There's no intro, there's no outro, there's no music, there's no graphics, there's no nothing, and it is a piece of shit. I keep that video there to remind me how far I've come on this channel. I don't tend to say, hey, look at me, look how great I am, or at least I try not to, but I keep that video there to remind myself of how far I have come, and it's fantastic. And I don't think as a partner I would be able to be where I am right now with you guys and my 515 or whatever it is followers, which is great, and I don't want this to be a job. The minute this becomes a job and I have to do it to make money, not I want to do it because I have something to say, that's probably the day I should hang up my camera. In all honesty. Are you answering no to this question? I guess if I say yes, it's no, and if I say no, it's no, right? That's a trick question, and it doesn't really work because people can't see. But anyways. And the last is Cheney815, who says, too bad WWE 2K15 isn't $9.99. Well played. If you could change 3 things about WrestleMania 18, what would they be? Very nice. You've noticed the fact that I've mentioned a few times that I was there. I would have had Christian go over DDP. I would have switched the Austin and Rock matches. I would have had Austin fight Hogan, obviously, because that's a match everybody wanted to see. But I would also have wanted to see, legitimately, The Rock versus Scott Hall. I think that would have been fantastic. It would have been entertaining, too. What are your thoughts on WWE versus ECW head-to-head special event that they had prior to One Night Stand 06? I don't remember, if I'm completely honest. Job 2, Team With or Barry? Really? The chocolate edition? Really? You're gonna get me in trouble with this shit. Layla, Naomi, Alicia Fox. A job to Layla, probably, because she's a smoke show. Team with Naomi, and I'd bury Alicia Fox. Would you rather take a skull-crushing finale on the top of the Hell in the Cell or a zigzag off the chamber pod? See, here's an interesting thing, because one is on top of the structure and one is coming down off the structure. Coming down off the pod would be about a 20 or a 10-foot fall, which I don't want to do. Even if you were talking about it being on the chamber pod is solid steel and chain, which would hurt a lot. The skull-crushing finale, I'm pretty sure it wouldn't be the most comfortable thing I'd done that day, but falling on the soft mesh of the kind of fencing that Hell in the Cell has got to be by far the less painful option there. Do you think the main event of Survivor Series 11 should have been a traditional elimination match that featured The Rock? In my opinion, it could have given a lot more wrestlers a chance to stand in the spotlight of the Great One's presence. I love how you guys phrase things when you ask me stuff. You're right in theory. If The Rock's going to be there and bring spotlight to the show, you want as many people to stand in that spotlight as possible. I think from WWE's perspective, the more people are in the match, the more it waters down the fact that The Rock is also there. So, I mean, what we did get was crap that made no sense. But I could, if that was WWE's logic, I can't exactly argue with that either. Since you're not going to do a December Q&A, who do you think had the best TLC pay-per-view? The pay-per-view, whichever year it was, where we all thought it was going to be a new generation, when we came out and CM Punk was a champion, Daniel Bryan was a champion, Zack Ryder was a champion, and they sort of like paraded through the WWE like conquering heroes, and I thought it was really great. Because at that point you also had, I think it was Beth Phoenix or Natalia that was the women's champion, and you had Air Boom as the tag team champions. I think there was a lot of group pictures that went around after that pay-per-view, and it's like, look at this new talent we have going forward. It was a great feeling. It was a great feeling just to count up. It's like, oh, all these old guys have belts. All these old guys have belts. No, look, our new guys are collecting some belts. It's great. It's wonderful. We're on the winning team, etc., etc., etc. Whatever year that was. How would you book a DX versus NWO rivalry? Two ways you can go with that. Ridiculously book DX until it's as big as the NWO, or at the most DX had 5 members. Pick your most important 5 members of the NWO. Probably Hogan, Hall, Nash, Disciple, and Mr. Perfect, let's say. For example, I'm not saying those are the 5 most important guys, but say you pick those 5. DX invades WCW and picks off all the other minor members of the NWO until it's a 5-on-5 fight leading into the pay-per-view that Sunday. Or DX just books a ridiculous amount of extra people. Because, I mean, DX, you could expand that out, too, because X-Pac teamed up with Kane. X-Pac had Tori for a while. Road Dogg teamed up with K-Quick. Billy Gunn went on to be tag team partners with Chuck Palumbo. You had China there, you had Shawn Michaels there. Shawn Michaels would have brought in Diesel, would have brought in Razor Ramon, would have brought in Luna Vachon, Sherry. If you want to talk about who's friends with who, friends with who, friends with who, you could expand DX to be as big as the NWO quite quickly, now that I think of it. So there's a lot of different booking chances you can go there. Who would you like to see try their hand at MMA or boxing? I would say Taker, if he was younger. I don't know why, but I think Cesaro in MMA. Definitely Taker in like boxing, because I don't know, it would be cool. Whose dick do you think Dixie Carter is sucking to keep TNA alive? Sorry to any of the legitimate TNA fans out there. She has a product. It has some name value. Apparently Discovery America is a channel that's just getting off the ground, so getting something that's that recognized will do like, it'll work because they're both little. Discovery America's brand new, and TNA is the little kid on the block, so I think they will have a mutual understanding that way, and I think that'll actually work out quite well. I apologize in advance if I stir up any shit over this one. My curiosity is just getting to me. Even now, it does somewhat surprise me that you don't associate with the majority of the individuals in the I/YWC. That being said, could you rank these names in the form of a shit list? How would it go? Deluxe Man, Eon Izzle, Mark Pearson, Vocal Aggression, or 619 Loyalist, Anarchist, whatever the hell he's going by these days. Thanks for reading, and don't be late this time. Cheney, you're a funny guy. I do have to object to one of the things that you said there. I'm gonna, you guys are gonna have to wait for me for a second because I gotta look something up. I do object a little bit to saying that I don't pay attention to any people in the YWC, because I'm gonna tell you people I subscribe to on YouTube. I subscribe to Aaron Rift. I subscribe to Abel from PWITOF. All the different Wrestling Jesus channels, obviously. Dirty South LaPlove, Good Mike Work and Good Mike Work 2, Hannah Banana Bob, James, who I've mentioned here a million times, Fear the Spear 1990, go check him out. Kid of Wrestling, Mr. Parkin, NJ, The British Fist, Nutty Rock Chick 1 and 2, my tackle partner, OK Fabe, Perry the Entertainer, Peter Rosenberg. For the Jurassic Park thing that I mentioned a minute ago, it's Rock Guitar 7X. Or Rock Guitar 7-fold, I guess. The Hulkster, the Zohan, Black Cat Feline. And I'm going to send out a shout-out to Kristen Black Cat Feline, whose channel has had a resurgence in the past couple of months or so. She's got 2 new co-hosts, Guapo and Suave, who join me as we tweet along with Raw and pay-per-views and whatnot. They are putting on a heck of a show at the moment, and I encourage you guys to go check them out. Nature Girl 30, The Orton Storm. Those are more WJ channels. But I do interact with a lot of the YWC. I just don't choose to particularly positively interact with the guys that are either talking shit or talking shit about me. Now, that being said, Top of that list is always going to be Preston. I mean, Deluxe Man's an asshole who's going to pull whatever stunts he can and make up whatever bullshit he can to get views. He's as much as admitted that. Eon Izzle and Vocal Aggression are irrelevant, because Eon Izzle comes in, talks down to everybody because he thinks he's legitimately going to have a job with the WWE, and that's just sad. And Vocal Aggression followed along with him and sucked his dick, and therefore you don't hear from either one of them anymore. Mark Pearson uses wrestling as a platform to talk down to people, and that's about it. Preston makes us all look bad, as I said a couple of videos ago. So Preston always tops the list because, as I said in that video, there's a bunch of stereotypes about you, me, and every other wrestling fan on the planet. Preston reinforces every single one of them. And I just have to add with this, what I started off this podcast with this quote, and it came from the Zohan on my video last month. It's the end of the month, and it's ridiculous o'clock in the morning can only mean one thing. Hashtag Spaz Phoenix is back. Followed up with Laurel Lewis by Oh Hell Yeah. Hashtag Stone Cold Voice. This is why I love interacting with all you guys. You guys are great. If I don't hook up with OK Fabe next month and I don't end up doing a preview video, allow me to take the opportunity once again right now to say thank you to all of you. Wish you a healthy and happy and safe rest of 2014 into 2015. 2015, we'll all have a hell of a hangover. We'll all talk about it together and we'll all heal from it. It'll be great. If I do the preview video, that'll be there. For those of you following Walking Stuff and Dead Things with me and Bird, that'll be up in a few days. Last week's episode went up tonight along with this. This week's episode will be filmed probably on Wednesday, probably go up Thursday or Friday. Yeah. Toss all your questions down in the box below. You've got 2 months to do it. We will be back in January. We will be on the road to WrestleMania. And on that road, your buddy, your pal, Spaz Phoenix, the YWC Reality Check, will point out each and every road sign. Thanks, guys. Have a good one.